Da li tehnološki napredak zaista donosi rast svima ili istovremeno i briše čitave industrije, radna mesta i veštine? Kolika su dostignuća koja se otkriju danas zapravo već sutra zastarela? Šta nam pokazuje, a šta skriva BDP? O ovome, ali i još mnogim temama razgovaramo večeras ovde na Kopaonik Biznis forumu u hotelu Grand sa jednim od vodećih evropskih makroekonomista, profesorom Omarom Licandrom. Moj gost je profesor ekonomije na Univerzitetu u Leicesteru u Velikoj Britaniji. Njegov fokus su ekonomski rast, tehnološki progres i pitanje koje postaje ključno za Evropu. Kako pretvoriti inovacije u održivo blagostanje? Zašto su ekonomski ciklusi neizbežni? Koje su to politike koje mogu manje razvijenim zemljama da podignu produktivnost? Da li Evropa plaća previsoku cenu za svoju socijalnu stabilnost i kako male i otvorene ekonomije poput Srbije mogu da iskoriste trgovinu i konkurenciju kao motor razvoja? Profesor Licandro govori o kreativnoj destrukciji, ulozi države u tranziciji i izazovima koje donosi veštačka inteligencija. Za mog gosta rast nije samo broj, već je on izbor modela razvoja. Ovo je prava ekskluziva za sve nas radoznalce. Ovo je razgovor koji objašnjava kako ekonomija funkcioniše danas i šta nas čeka sutra. Let's start with something which is, I think, more personal, professional question. So you were born in Uruguay.
Yeah.
Studied in Belgium and have worked across the European continents. What drives someone from Montevideo to the center of European economic section?
Well, it was the desire of learning. It's interesting because then it took me a while to finish my undergraduate degree because I was working, and at some point I was working 8 hours a day, then a full-time job, and I was working on cooperatives, and I was working as in a cooperative bank.
Yeah.
But at some point I thought I would like to do something deeper.
I need something.
I need something deeper. And then I applied for a grant, and I think I was lucky on going to Louvain, to Belgium. Because then I learned economics there.
But was there then a moment when you felt you had arrived, or are you still sometimes feel like, outsider in a European context as somebody who's really different cultures, different continents?
Well, if you ask me, I feel a real European, even if my roots are from Uruguay.
Yeah.
And I had experience of working and living in at least 3 European countries.
Very good.
I did my studies in a 4th one, and I visited, I would say, all of them.
And I think that Europe as a construction is very good for the people because whoever arrives is actually can feel like home.
And I never feel an immigrant.
Yeah.
Never. And I was never treated as an immigrant.
But you describe yourself as a macroeconomist specialized on economic growth, but your career has been much also about not only theory, but also about building institutions. And you ran the EEA, you created RIDGE, you led the Barcelona School of Economics, and of course you have done a lot of research. Which has been more difficult, solving the equations or managing the economists?
Wow, that's interesting. My experience on institutional is highly positive. The institutions is not a person. Institutions is a bunch of people that believes on an objective and work on building it. This is my experience, and I love working in places where people understand each other, where cooperation is the rule.
There is some kind of, building the community.
Yeah, it's building a community. And that in research is fundamental.
Let's talk now about the idea you're most famous for, and this is the vintage capital. And just to explain to our watchers, viewers, your argument that not all machines are created equal or born equal, that a factory built in 1990s and the factory built in 2024 might both count as a capital in the statistics, but are fundamentally different things. Why does it matter? Just to explain.
Well, it's the way in which technological progress takes place. Then think on Apple.
Yeah.
No, then I wrote my PhD dissertation on a Mac Plus. It was a box with a small screen.
Yeah.
No, and from this to today, of course, there are a lot of years in the middle, but the progress is incredible. And the key in the case of Apple is that any new computer that comes somehow kills the previous one. Not because the others are not operative.
But depreciating.
No, in the sense that they cannot do the same things. And then software develop, and there is a point in which you cannot use the new software in the old computer.
Yeah, because before your theory, we mostly counted everything as machine is a machine and it's a part of some kind of the production process of the system, but never actually looked into the productivity and what is not only the speed of the producing some product, but also the technology that is involved in the production of this new machine.
That's a very interesting point. In fact, the theory of vintage capital comes from the 50s and 60s.
Yeah.
And Bob Solow and Arrow, they work on it.
Yeah.
No, the issue at the time was that, well, the data they have, that was just a stock of capital. Then why you will complicate your life on thinking an object that you cannot observe? No? And then develop it, and it's quite interesting. There is what they call aggregation theory. They develop theories in which you aggregate all these vintages and you get capital.
Yeah.
Then,
this is extraordinary.
Is with nowadays we have a lot of micro data, then you can measure a lot of things that you were not able to measure at the time. Then,
of course.
And that makes all these theories much more appealing.
And then also in your research, you discovered something. Let's go a little bit deeper into what problems were discovered then after you came with the vintage capital theory. Something which you are calling replacement echoes, and the idea that the waves of investments create synchronized waves of obsolescence. So let's say decades later. And my question is, when I heard this and when I read your work, was, are we living through a replacement echo right now, as the technologies of the 90s and the early 2000s actually reach the end of their productive life?
Yeah, I think that there is a mix of the obsolescence of previous technologies and the birth of the new ones. Think now on AI.
Yeah, that's exactly.
AI is a new, they call it general purpose technology, that is now generating a lot of new products that are substituting those of the previous generation. But they are being developed on a bunch. Yeah. There is a lot of investment on AI. This is an echo.
This is an echo.
It's an echo. And then there is the substitution of the previous one. And we don't know what the next will be, but when it will come, everything related to AI will become obsolete, and then there will be the new technology taking place.
And that's exactly the problematic that is really interesting to think about, also in policy making, but also as a business people, is in between the echo is created in the time frame, and in between the new technology coming and making the old technology obsolete, there is some transition period, which can be really dangerous if you do not really take care about how the transition is going on.
I think that the new technologies destroy the previous one. Yeah. But that the business sector can manage. No? Then somehow it's in your calculations. The new thing may come. Yeah. Then at some point your machines or your technology will become obsolete. But then you prepare yourself. And if you are in the run, then there's no big issue. The main problem for people, because human capital is highly associated to the state of technology. We develop skills that are very useful for the current technology. When a new wave of technologies comes, then human capital becomes obsolete too. The skills of people become obsolete. And that's very difficult to substitute. A guy that is in the late 40s, beginning of 50s, cannot be back to university.
Yeah.
Doesn't make any sense. Just to work 10 years more, why to do that?
But that's exactly what we had, because you are also, I think it was a research later, in bringing the vintage capital theory also to the vintage human capital theory. With Lacroix, or I think, I don't know who was your co-author. But basically that, programmer educated in 2005, IT engineer, and IT engineer educated in 2025. These are two different worlds.
Completely
two different really worlds. So basically, this is something that we also experiencing now today, not only in Serbia, but in the whole world, how to manage the transition process on that. Because, just 2 years ago, and the speed matters, just 2 or 1 year ago, we had, all possible, millions of people employed as IT engineers all around the world. And after that, 1 year, since 6 months even, 90% of these people, their knowledge from that time is not actually needed in the way that we think. So there is no question, I know that there is no answer that you can give, you have to do this, but what can the policy making level try to achieve, and are we capable in our educational systems to do that?
I would say for the old generations it's very difficult. Normally the process is that the education system will adapt and the new generation will be educated in the new technology, and at some point the labor market will reach a situation where there will be an equilibrium where people will have the right skills. Yeah. But the big issue is the technical progress in general is faster than human life. Then if technologies replace each other every 10 years, a worker is in the labor market for 40. Then it's very difficult to solve the problem. Then the only alternative is social policies. No? Then you have to... I was at some point just giving advice to the European Union on these things. And the big issue you face is that you want to promote innovation. It's very important. Then there is a huge effort on promoting innovation. At the same time, you have to think on what are the social policies that will help to solve this problem. You need both, because you are generating a problem. Yeah. No? You push technology, then new technology will come, they will destroy the previous one, and they will become the skills associated to the old ones obsolete.
But it is not maybe the thinking about the innovation in the way that, mostly when let's speak about AI, that mostly, all the investments and investments in the fundamental models and in the, let's say, in the research and in the scientific part of the developing of the AI, but also in the hardware and on the computing and software way, but that we are actually not really pushing so much effort to invest thinking in the applicative model. So how to bridge this kind of this transformational gap where the technology is going exponentially like this, and that we can actually think about what are the applications of the technology that can be spotted in the time frame, time after time after time, and more and more and more, and include the people in this process. I'm talking about people having a bakery that can use AI solutions if we are able to provide also this innovation in the way that they can understand this innovation.
Yeah, that's a tricky question, because then on one side what we expect is that entrepreneurs will find opportunities. They say, oh, there is AI, then I can apply it to this problem, and then by applying it I will have a huge demand to my idea, right? Then when you are an entrepreneur thinking on this, the key for him is the profit. How much money I will do if I do that. Then it's to the state to try to give incentives to in the case of AI,
Yes.
that the applications of AI are more work-oriented, than protecting jobs. And if you think then AI can substitute me at some point, Of course, I don't think that they should care much about me, but it's very important if you think that the engineer will be affected, then how technology can develop instead to give them support to become better, more efficient than before, than substituting them completely.
Yeah.
It's not given that the AI will substitute everything. That it may be. For the moment, it's science fiction. We know that and I use now AI all the time, and it has improved my efficiency a lot.
Yeah.
I can do a lot of things that before were much more time-consuming. Then innovation has these two sides. I think one important side from the point of view of the public institutions is try to give incentives to the diffusion of the new technology in dimensions that are work-oriented.
And this is exactly what we are trying to address, this question of how the public institutions could reimagine the policy from the subsidizing to the educational systems in order to bring the innovation to the people who are really not included from the very beginning of. It's still some small amount of people living there, in this very high end of the research. So this is something that maybe should be researched more.
The way I think is the following. Think on computers.
Yeah.
When computers start, very few people were able to write a code. It was very, very complex, very difficult. At some point, IBM realized that if I want to make money, I need everybody buying a computer. And then the personal computer came. Then you make the technology friendly, right? It's very likely then ChatGPT, they are making a lot of money. Why? Because they created an application of AI that is useful for, I don't say everybody. I don't think my mom is using ChatGPT, not yet. But at university, everybody does.
Yeah, of course.
And it's saving a lot of times in many, many dimensions. And there is this double dimension. Then if there will be those that will have the incentive on making AI friendly, then that will be good for everybody.
Of course, so there are this multidimensional spaces of deploying the AI. On the one side, making it user-friendly to use large language models for doing research or building the business plan or having a better sales. But on the other side, there are AI deployment in the very complex industrial sectors, which can really reshape the industry as we know today, from the additive manufacturing to and pharmaceutical research and production. So this is somehow the process that will, I think, really, and the speed of this, when IBM invented computer, until the PC came and everybody had the personal computer at home, it was some kind of time frames. And the time frames now
are becoming
narrowing.
And shorter.
And we are the same. So our psychology hasn't changed. We are the same brains. We are reacting.
Yeah, but the system cannot work if there are no people buying.
Yeah.
Then you cannot destroy the basis of the system.
Yeah.
Then it's impossible to think on a situation where everybody will be unemployed.
Of course.
Then there will be no buyers. No. I used to tell my students about robotics. Is that, well, that looks gorgeous. No, the day that robots will do everything will be in the beach, enjoying the sun.
Yeah.
That looks gorgeous, but be sure that you will be one of the owners of the robots.
That's right.
But it's impossible to think a society where one guy owns all robots and who will buy them?
Yeah, that's true. But I would like to switch to one very interesting question that also the newest research proved, and that it was a huge debate for decades. Is GDP actually measuring, the wealth or the well-being or welfare, or is it not? Is it the right way to measure economic output or growth or whatever? And it was your co-author the paper in the Economic Journal, I think, that made actually the surprising claim after I think the last 10 years was like, forget the GDP, it's telling us nothing. That the GDP growth rate that national statisticians calculate is actually a welfare measure, is a precise, in a precise mathematical sense. So most people assume GDP doesn't capture welfare, but you proved it does. Can you explain it? You proved it does in a very specific way, but it is interesting.
No, it's a very, very important question. Then what we say is the following. Then GDP only measures activities that go through markets, measure market activities. Yeah? Then the question is about these activities. Yeah? That GDP is a measure of welfare when we include in the welfare of people only these activities. Yeah. Then of course GDP is not measuring what is not in the market. Then there are activities that how much I love my mother is not in GDP. Yeah. Of course, if I offer my mother chocolates, that is in GDP. Yeah. But the point is that GDP measures welfare in this dimension. And the answer, I think, I will give you an example, and then I will be back to the question. And that's an example because I have to give a talk tomorrow, and I will use the example tomorrow. Then, suppose that I give you 10,000 dinar, and I tell, go to the supermarket, buy whatever you want. Then you go, you buy, and you come back with a chariot full of stuff. And I say, okay, put the chariot there, and I give you 20,000. Go again. And you go again and back with more, of course. And I ask you, what the two you prefer? You will say the second, no? And then for how much? Because that's the question. For how much you prefer this to this? Oh, that's a tough question. My answer will be 100%, the double. It's an arbitrary measure, but it's a good one. Any money I will give you, you go to the supermarket, the basket you will buy, you will prefer to any basket you will buy with less money. Then in this sense, money measures people's welfare. Because what we register in national accounts is people's consumption. Yeah. We also add to consumption the investment of firms. But why firms invest? In order to produce consumption goods in the future. Then the value of investment somehow embody all the discounted utility that the additional consumption goods will be produced in the future. Then GDP is measuring people's welfare. In this strict sense. Then,
yeah, but it's also interesting that if you go deeper and analyze what kind of consumption. So if I spend the money and make more haircuts,
yeah,
and spend the money buy more cars, it's a different equation.
Yeah, but
because cars are mostly it's the value which is measured in the welfare is more likely to be presented in this kind of product.
But this is in the decision you took when I sent you to the supermarket.
Yeah.
Then you decided whatever you want to buy. I will not tell people what they should buy.
Yeah.
But with the money they have, they do the best choices. That's what we as economy think. Then if people are doing the best choices with the money they have, then consumption as measured in national accounts is a measure of people's welfare.
But you are also very cautious with defining, because it is measuring the welfare, but it is not measuring sometimes things that people, were critical about the GDP, like social equality or this kind of environmental or free time or whatever spaces that we are living in. But this is not the point. The point was...
Yeah, that's an interesting point, because I fully agree. First, I fully agree. Then national accounts don't measure inequality.
Yeah.
This is in the origins. At the time they are created, it was impossible. And even in our days, still impossible to measure the welfare of everybody. Yeah. However, with now internet and AI, it may be that tomorrow they can tell you your GDP. What is Marco GDP last year? They will be able to. Then you will be able to have the aggregate number, then the per capita number, and you will have the distribution, you see? But the issue here is one number enough? Not. No. But it's informative. Yeah. Yeah? Then,
but it is proving. That is what you are saying. Is it the one and only number that it is, let's say, determining everything? No. But it is the number that is proving the welfare.
Yeah. Then if GDP goes up by 3%, what you learn is that in income terms, in monetary terms, the welfare of the average Serbian went up by 3%. It may be that some people are losing and some people are getting 100, no? And that's how it works. Then some people become rich, and then they are enjoying much more than those that are becoming poorer. No? It's about the average guy.
I found this is really also the latest research of you on GDP, like, because it was the huge discussion, everything. I think discussion was wrong because it was actually, comparing apples and oranges and trying to put the apples and oranges in the same bottle, and it's not the same world.
It's not completely wrong, but the way in the discussion GDP growth is seen, I think this is the wrong side. Yeah. But the fact that GDP is not measuring everything, I fully agree. That's what the European Commission is now trying to work hard on, the complementarity between industries and universities, how to generate the links, how to improve in this direction. 60% of the Serbian GDP is exported. Yeah. That's a very high number. Then it's a very open economy. The key of the innovation process is this full of spillovers. Whatever you learn now will facilitate others to learn tomorrow.
Znate li da možete da biohakujete svoj mozak? Da napravite fino podešavanje, da ne toliko komplikovano, već svesno kontrolišete san, ishranu, fizičku aktivnost i neke druge stvari koje ćete moći da počitate u knjizi Hirn Tuning na nemačkom, inače Brain Tuning na engleskom izdanju. Preporučujem vam ovu knjigu, zaista nam dolazi svakodnevne savete kako da iz sebe izvučete najbolje moguće. Autor Dave Asprey je zapravo napisao vodič za optimizaciju mozga i mentalnih performansi kroz biohacking pristup koji kombinuje nauku i praktične tehnike iz svakodnevnog života. Njegova ideja je da naš mozak ne funkcioniše u najboljoj formi zbog loših navika u ishrani, snu, pokretu i okruženju. Kroz knjigu on objašnjava kako male i ciljane promene u ovim ključnim oblastima mogu dovesti do jasnijeg razmišljanja, više energije i bolje otpornosti na stres. Centralni deo knjige posvećen je proučavanju 4 osnovna aspekta: ishrana, san, fizička aktivnost, svetlo i okruženje. Asprey navodi kako je primjenom svih ovih strategija lično unapredio svoj IQ i smanjio biološko starenje. Knjiga sadrži sugestije o tome kako aktivirati rast novih neurona i mitohondrija, što dovodi do brže obrade informacije i većeg dela slobodne energije u mozgu. Iako je pristup ponekad složen i zahteva posvećenost, Brain Tuning nudi strateški okvir za one koji žele da unaprede svoje mentalne performanse, fokus i energiju. Sve u svemu, ovo je mešavina naučno potkrepljenih preporuka i autorskih iskustava o tome kako podešavanjem mozga možemo postići jasnije razmišljanje i veću produktivnost. Nama, radoznalima, to nije strano. Vidimo se i sledeće nedelje.